सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen though.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
Hi, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Print Process. We're joined by two very special guests this week. Mohsin Dawar is a well-known Pakistani legislator whom you must have been heard of. He's been at the cutting edge of conversations over Pakistan's political future, especially on the conflict raging in its northwest region. Gul Bukhari has, as those of you who follow this show know, is a writer and political commentator. Thank you both for joining us. And, sometimes I joke that one of the curses of being Indian or Pakistani is that we have to discuss each other too often. The Swiss and the Germans never have programs about each other because they are a blessed people. But a dramatic week in Pakistan again. And I thought we'd begin with looking at Dawar Saab, if I may. The long-running peace talks between the TTP and Pakistan have broken down. Dobara terrorist attacks ka threat ubhar ke samne aaya hai. You've been talking about this for quite some time in the media over there. इस वक्त क्या पीस प्रोसेस कंप्लीटली डेड है? पाकिस्तान के अब ऑप्शंस क्या हैं टीटीपी के साथ? Do you foresee that there will be a military confrontation ahead, or is there still a role for politics in trying to address this situation?
Well, thank you very much. I think the situation is very complicated right now. हम अगर इसको थोड़ा इसका बैकग्राउंड देखें तो ये जो मिलिटेंट अपराइजिंग है, अपराइजिंग तो उसको नहीं कह सकते, लेकिन क्योंकि वो एक
whatever the word,
हाँ whatever a word, हम वो, लेकिन ये जो मिलिटेंसी जिस तरीके से पहली और पाकिस्तान की अफगान पॉलिसी ही का बुनियादी तौर पर वो कोर ही था जिसकी गिर्द ये मिलिटेंट के मुख्तलिफ जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन थे, क्योंकि वो जो फोकल पॉइंट था उनके वो वही तालिबान थे जो अफगानिस्तान में अपनी कार्रवाइयाँ करते थे। तो उसी के इर्द गिर्द ये यहाँ पर मुख्तलिफ तंजीमें TTP और मुख्तलिफ नामों से वो फिर इमर्ज हुई और उन्होंने फिर यहाँ पर भी कार्रवाइयाँ शुरू कर दी। अब मुख्तलिफ फेजेस आए। इनिशियली उनको जो एक्स फाटा था कबायली अजला है वहां से फिर पहलते वो फिर स्वात मलकन डिवीजन और मुल्क के मुख्तलिफ हिस्सों में कराची और इवन तकरीबन हर जगह वो फिर फैल गए थे। फिर एक नया फेज आया स्वात में, फिर ऑपरेशन से पहले मुज़ाकरात और मुज़ाकरात के बाद फिर ऑपरेशन। बहरहाल फिर ज़रब अज़ब और रद्दुल फसाद, ये तमाम फेजेस होते हुए ये जो एक नया मोड़ उसमें आया वो मोड़ था जब अफगानिस्तान में तालिबान ने टेक ओवर किया। अब अफगानिस्तान में तालिबान के टेक ओवर के बाद फिर एक तो वो हुआ कि वहां पर जितने भी TTP के लोग वहां पर जेलों में कैद थे, अमारात इस्लामी वाले ने उनको वहां से छुड़वाया। अब फिर जाहिर बात है फिर वो आपस में उनका यही एक केमिस्ट्री थी कि भाई हमने आपको सपोर्ट किया, और वो जो TTP थी उनका अभी तक यही मुद्दा है कि हमने अफगान तालिबान को काबुल के टेक ओवर में सपोर्ट किया और हम अब उनको चाहिए कि वो हमें सपोर्ट करें। अब ऐसी सिचुएशन में जाहिर बात है जब उन्होंने टेक ओवर किया, फिर वो एक अफगानिस्तान एक छोटा मुल्क है और फिर हर कोई जो भी लड़ा था वो उस स्टेट स्ट्रक्चर में कुछ न कुछ शेयर भी मांगने लगा कि हमें भी कुछ न कुछ दे दिया जाए। तो वो एक छोटे से रियासती ढांचे में पर सबको एडजस्ट करना भी मुमकिन नहीं था। तो उनका दूसरी अतराफ में यहाँ पर वो दैट वाज वेरी मच ऑब्वियस, राइट। अब वो जो लोग हैं उन्होंने यहाँ देखना शुरू किया जो एक जो यहाँ पर ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग थे, जो यहाँ पर कार्रवाइयां करते थे वो तो थे, वहां से भी कुछ लोगों का रुख यहाँ पर मोड़ दिया गया है कि भाई यहाँ तो जहाद पूरा हो गया है, हमें अपनी मंजिल मिल गई है, अब हमने यही इसी के तसलसल आगे भी बढ़ाना है। और वो ये इनके जो एक लीडर थे टीटीपी के, जब वो रिहा हुए जेल से, वहां पर कुनड़ में ही उन्होंने एक तकरीर की थी कि अब हमने पाकिस्तान में भी यही जो कानून है उसको नाफिज करना है। तो वो जाहिर बात है उनका स्पिल ओवर था, उससे फिर यहाँ पर इंटेंसिटी उसने जरूर उसने बढ़ना था। तो जब बड़ी और हमारी अप्रोच फिर भी कंफ्यूज थी, और उस कंफ्यूज अप्रोच की वजह से उनको फिर एंगेज किया गया कि भाई चलो हम मुज़ाकरात करते हैं, और उनको जो अफगान तालिबान के हकानी नेटवर्क के जो सरबराह सराजुद्दीन हकानी, उनको एज अ मुंसिफ या आर्बिट्रेटर या व्हाट्सएवर जो भी कहे कि भाई आप एज अ गारंटर इस मुज़ाकरात में हम, अब वो जिन लोगों ने खुद सारी उम्र लड़ाई लड़ी दहशतगर्दी, वो उनसे हम ये तवक्को करने लगे कि वो हमें, और वो पॉसिबल भी नहीं था, क्योंकि वो टीटीपी का मुद्दा यही था कि भाई आपने जो अचीवमेंट की वो हमारे सपोर्ट से की है। अब आप हमें ये पाबंद नहीं कर सकते कि भाई आप कहें कि भाई आप एक नॉर्मल वो गुजारा और सरेंडर हो जाए वहां पर तालिबान में। तो ये पॉसिबल था ही नहीं शुरू से, ये इट वाज वेरी अननेचुरल मूव। हाँ, हमने उसको क्रिटिकली इस तरह देखा कि इस बहाने तालिबान फैल जाएंगे पूरे पख्तूनख्वा में भी और पूरे पाकिस्तान में भी, और वो फिर से अपनी कार्रवाइयां शुरू करेंगे। और वो तकरीबन वो फिर हुआ भी वैसे ही, लेकिन उसके बाद फिर अवामी रिएक्शन भी आया, स्वात, बाजवाड़, ममंद, वजीरिस्तान, एवरीवेयर वहां लोग उठे, लोगों ने जलसा जुलूस किया, मुजामत की, और वो तकरीबन अभी तक ये सारी कशमकश जारी है। तो वो उनको मुज़ाकरात के जरिए कायम करना, क्योंकि वो दे नीड एब्सोल्यूट पावर, या तो फिर पूरी की पूरी रियासत को उनके सामने सरेंडर करना पड़ेगा, और अदरवाइज उन्होंने तो कह दिया कि हमने सरेंडर नहीं होगा।
Thank you, Davar Saab. Gul, one of the things that fascinates me with this whole story Davar Saab just explained to us is that for many years, the Pakistan army has been telling politicians that, look, we live in a volatile neighborhood. We have to deal with all these challenges. We know how to handle these things, and politicians should stay in the background and let us do this. Now, this peace talks process was largely led by Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid during his time at the ISI. And it doesn't seem to have ended so well. Do you believe that politicians will now push forward and more aggressively assert that they should have influence over vital national security issues, or that the time for that hasn't quite come?
I think the time is very much here, and if not today, then tomorrow, it will. I see it going towards another operation, because as Mohsin said, they do want absolute power. There can be no negotiations. You said that it didn't end well, what Faiz Hamid started. In fact, it never ended well. It's been, vacillating between operations and negotiations. Operations and negotiations. Both sides seem to think that we're going to, regroup and then tackle the matter. At one stage, I remember, and everyone will remember, that the Pakistani army thought, hand over Swat and be done with it, and it will be all right. So they were sacrificed. The Swat, the people of Swat were sacrificed like lambs. But of course, the Taliban were not satiated. They were not happy with just Swat. So they started the march towards Bunair and Shangla. And when they were only a mere 100 kilometers from Islamabad as the crow flies, that's when the decision, and the Chand Bibi incident also happened, where a video went viral and she was seen being mercilessly lashed, or whipped. And that's when the operations was started in Swat. So we keep seeing history repeat itself over and over again. These talks which Faiz Hamid was trying to do were never going to end well, because, what is it that you are going to negotiate away? They do want total power. They do want Nafaz Sharia. They do not accept the constitution. They do not accept the country on democratic lines. So obviously, it was not going to end well. Anybody could have, most people, Davar Saab himself, everybody, all normal. So coming back to your question, whether it's time for the civilians to assert themselves, yes. And I think that this is that point in time where the military may be a lot more receptive to this suggestion or assertion of the civilians. It most likely will be. There's been what you've seen happen recently was like a cliffhanger, the appointment of the army chief. The man, he brings a certain kind of thought process or whatever you might call it to the table, and this was not just a power struggle between people with or top generals in the army. I think this was a struggle of ideas as well. There are people who believe that these things are best left to the politicians, and there are people who believe that no, we must, remain all powerful and in charge of the country. So I think this was that kind of a battle as well. And right till the end, we did not know who would win.
Right.
And you see the consensus, the lack of consensus was not just between the civilians and the military. There was no consensus inside the military either as to who the person will be. And I think they've bloodied their nose quite a bit. The respect from the heartland of Pakistan, Punjab, that's gone. They're fighting two insurgencies. One is the Islamic one is, in the southwest in Balochistan. Of course, they must concentrate on keeping the LOC quiet as well as it has been for the last couple of years. So it's a challenge, and I think they will be receptive. At least that's my hope. That's how it looks at the moment.
Davashab, क्या आप गुल जैसे ऑप्टिमिस्ट है? क्योंकि looking at it from as an outsider, एक हाथ पे yes, the civilian government was able to assert itself and get the person believed to be the prime minister and the ruling coalition's choice for army chief. दूसरे हाथ पे हम ये भी देख रहे हैं कि कई क्रिटिकल इश्यूज पे अभी भी मिलिट्री का बहुत हाथ है. मैं पाकिस्तान के अखबारों में देख रहा था कि आपने ही एक कॉन्फ्रेंस पे जाना था, then you tweeted you were mysteriously stopped from going there. How confident are you कि पाकिस्तान में अभी वो पॉलिटिकल जो प्राइमेसी होनी चाहिए लाइफ में वो एक्चुअली इस वक्त पे आने लगी है? Is the army willing to give up control of some of these core areas?
Well, Gul is optimistic, but unfortunately, I'm not that much optimistic because power isn't something which one gives up by itself. You have to take it. Currently, the situation is with the political leadership is that I can't see the strength required for that. And on the other side, I think with the change of a single individual, I don't think so that it is going to bring that much of a change. I know that it does matter, up to some extent, but not more than that. We have seen, what has been happening in the past, although everybody knows that what happened with the policies, which they were forcing, like the one which you said in the intro, the one policy, the foreign policy, with all the neighbors and with the rest of the world. And they believe that we are the one who know the best, and we are the one who knows about the economy more than anybody else. Like, most of our political leadership, they have been criticizing Imran Khan for bringing the economy to a verge of getting collapse. But he was not in a position to take his own decision. He was not the one who could appoint his own finance minister. I'm not giving him a clean sheet, but he was imposed for the same thing, that he will have to follow the instruction. Now, after the regime change, and I will speak about that in the parliament also, that I was stopped at the Islamabad airport from traveling to Tajikistan to attend a conference. And although my name was, it was removed by the cabinet, on the instruction of the cabinet, it was removed from the exit control list. But still, I was stopped without giving me any proper reason. And the political leadership, they didn't bother. So it's just I'm telling I'm showing a symbolic example of that. So we also need to build ourselves. We have to strengthen also. We have to take some strong decisions also. And till now, after the regime change from this new government, we haven't seen any step, which can lead us toward any sort of civilian supremacy, or any specific step which can take back the space which was surrendered in the previous government to the military. But there is a political vacuum for such kind of narrative. There is a political vacuum, and as Gul said, that people are no more, they cannot go anymore with the same kind of narrative. Even if the sitting political parties who are in the government right now, if they go back to general masses with the same narrative of vote ka izzat do, people are not going to buy it, because in the recent past they went with the same slogan, but when they got the power, the performance was something else.
Gul, I'll just come to you, but to add my question into the many responses I'm sure you're going to have to that. If I was a Pakistani general, which I would very much like to be, having just seen General Bajwa's property, I wish I'd had the opportunity. But if I was a Pakistan general, wouldn't I be quite happy just now that, look, I created a mess. Now these politicians are going to come and sort out my mess. They are going to have to make number of very unpopular decisions like cutting subsidies, which will create hardship for people. And 4 or 5 years down the road, I can say, enough of these politicians. Now I will sort it out for you. How would you respond to that theory that actually they're just asking the politicians to clean up the stable rather than sharing power with the politicians?
So if you will allow me, can I respond to this question after I attempt to explain my so-called optimism?
Absolutely.
So the optimism is, if you want to call it that, it's not based on expecting things to happen because it's going to happen out of the goodness of anybody's heart. I don't know if you remember, but I used to talk about the environment becoming so difficult, so tough, and things so impossible that the army will let Nawaz Sharif back in. So they had made such a big mess that he's not being allowed back out of the goodness of anybody's heart. It's because he was a necessity, right? And so right now, once they brought their project, Imran Khan, and it backfired so bad. Right now, the situation, I will describe it as, two people sitting on a tandoor and fighting over a piece of bread, right? Tandoor pe, roti pe jhagda chal raha hai. So the civil and military who were fighting over this roti, they both fell and the roti fell in the tandoor. Now, to be able to get any part of it, they will both have to work together. They've brought Pakistan to a point where they will have to accept a more equal partnership with the civilians, which leads into your question. If I were a Pakistani general, would I not be really happy that, come on in now, clean up my mess, and 5 years down, I'm going to do this again? That's a very interesting thing. I think that's exactly what happened. General Bajwa made a right royal mess of the country, and then of course, convince these politicians to do the, pick up the mess after him, because the army was not going to be able to do it themselves. Now, what this gives you is the civilians, is some space. And what remains now to be seen is how they utilize that space of, say, those 5 years. If they strengthen democracy, let it root itself and pull it away from the military. If they're actually able to do that, the generals may not be able to come back after 5 years. So it's all down to how they use it. Mohsin said one thing, that we have not seen any sign of, the civilians making it felt that, they're going to do anything about civil supremacy and make it actually more supreme over the military. But the very appointment that you saw just now was the first win, really, to be honest. The past 6-7 months, they've had their heads down and trying to struggle on 3 fronts. One has been the economic front, the second has been the diplomatic front, and the third has been the Imran Khan front, who had a fairly strong sort of group within the army still backing him. Because if you see that all the things that he was getting away with, all manner of things, he got away with violating the first time in history we've seen a civilian violate the constitution. He goes ahead and puts a stop to a democratic constitutional process of the vote of no confidence. And with what? With impunity. He is caught with his pants down trying to get Pakistan to default by having the KP and Punjab governments write letters which would basically spook the IMF. Again, impunity. So many things. So he had, so the government has so far been struggling quite a bit. But the fact that they have been able to stay the course and put in the military under the command of a man of their choice. I cannot describe to you the drama till the last night, how they managed it. It is a not known fact. It came to blows. And the way they managed it. And then you saw how General Faiz resigned one day before General Bajwa was to leave.
Right.
So I think there is so much firefighting to be done. And it is fair to say that, yes, if they have removed themselves from the ECL, why could they not have had our MNA Mohsin Dawar Sahab removed from the ECL? Because, they're prioritizing themselves. Ali Wazir is still in jail. Gul Alay's parents are still being persecuted. So yes, I am not ignoring the failures, but what I'm saying is that there's a lot on their plates, but this is the time when the iron is hot and they can actually strike. If they want, they can get Ali out. If they want, they can get a lot out of the military right now. But the other thing is that, the day General Asim Munir took his sort of command, one day after that, people started asking, has this changed? Has this changed? Has this changed? Is it, I ask, humanly possible to change overnight? It's a bit like when Macbeth said, I am in blood stepped in so far that should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as going over. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. So let me interrupt you. And by the way, the mindset, it's not just the mindset of one man that's going to matter. There's a whole cultural change that has to be brought about in the military itself, in the judiciary, in the civil services, etc. Sorry, I went on for too long.
But you are valid point. But I want to go to Dawar Saab, and as someone who's been around long enough, I've seen the same headlines so many times, Mohsin Saab, in newspapers, saying democracy restored in Pakistan. क्योंकि या तो election हुआ होता है, नया वजीर आजम आया होता है, या कोई army chief बदल के कोई और नया army chief बना होता है. But from 1958, the army has always hung like a shadow over Pakistan's political system. Coup pe coup हुए हैं. जनरल बाजवा ने अभी रिसेंट एक स्पीच में कहा था कि पिछले फरवरी इन्होंने डिसीजन लिया कि पाकिस्तान आर्मी पूरी तरह पॉलिटिक्स से हट जाएगी और ये कू का वेपन होपफुली मतलब अब इतिहास के पन्नों में चले जाएगा. डू यू बिलीव दे हैव जेन्युइनली स्टेप्ड बैक or that this shadow is still there over the political system as a whole? क्या politicians ही जल के, after all, Mia Saab has spent time in jail unhappily and in exile. Zardari Saab has had some unhappy experiences. Have they learned that they have to unite to protect themselves against the military, protect themselves and the political system? आपका क्या अंदाजा है?
Well, I think they learned it, long time ago when they signed a charter of democracy. But then after when in 2008, when the People Party formed a government, and someone with the black coat and support from somewhere went to the Supreme Court and to investigate the Memogate scandal. And then everybody saw that what happened to that political regime, which was also which was formed after the phase which Gul pointed out, that everything was almost on the verge of collapse. The bringing back a political force, it was very much inevitable. And then even after that, we had a very sound phase between 2013 and 18, and People's Party played a very mature role when Imran Khan, he came out and he was brought to Islamabad for a sit-in along with Tahir al-Qadri.
Yeah.
But then, then they started on a new formula of Imran Khan. And because the rest of the political parties, the establishment believed that they are now mature up to a level that they can facilitate and they can work for us, but not more than a specific extent. Then, a new project with the name of Imran Khan, it was installed, and now, it ended up in a disaster. And I think nothing would have backfired that much badly, the way the project Imran Khan backfired to the military generals in Pakistan. But the problem here is that we need to take some strong decision. We shouldn't just हमें सिर्फ इसका भी इंतजार नहीं करना चाहिए कि भाई जर्नल खुद से ही पीछे हटेंगे. हमें भी कुछ ना कुछ अपनी ताकत असर्ट करनी होगी. वो कुछ हालात वैसे बन भी जाए कि मतलब माहौल ऐसा हो, तो कुछ ना कुछ सियासतदानों को भी अपनी ताकत, अपने इख्तियार अपने हाथ में लेना होगा. ये मतलब इतना सिंपली शायद ना हो कि भाई सिर्फ वो हटे तभी आपको स्पेस मिले. नहीं, थोड़ी स्पेस आप लोगों ने खुद भी बनानी होगी. और लेकिन हमारी आवाम की जो सोच है वो अब बिल्कुल उसमें जितनी क्लियरिटी है शायद हमारे सियासतदानों में उतनी ना हो. आवाम बिल्कुल क्लियर है और वो जानते हैं कि भाई कौन है इसका जिम्मेदार जो हालत अब तक बन गई है. सो उसी के मुताबिक सियासतदानों को भी, सियासी पार्टियों को भी उसी डायरेक्शन में अपनी सियासत को डालना होगा. अदरवाइज मतलब इसी तरह अगर ये सिस्टम चलता रहा तो देन द स्टेटस को विल रिमेन. एंड ये 19-20 फर्क बीच में आता रहेगा. कुछ ज्यादा बड़ा चेंज हम ला नहीं पाएंगे, क्योंकि अदरवाइज तो ये सारी रिपीटिशन है. ये जो कुछ हो रहा है हम ये समझते हैं कि भाई हमने मुशर्रफ के टाइम में भी ये देखा, हम उससे पहले, ये चीज बार बार रिपीट हो रही है. तो यही सर्कल रिपीट होता रहेगा और वो जो जेन्युइन पॉलिटिकल पावर है वो हम ले नहीं पाएंगे.
So, Gul, I'm going to make you continue to play the optimist, though I know that you're somewhat reluctant in that role. When you look at the political parties, yes, you see that they have learned some lessons. But at the end of the day, like with so many subcontinental parties, these are still largely parties where they want their children to inherit the party kingdom. There are parties with all kinds of shady characters, with all kinds of business interests and local interests and so on. And I would say no clear economic agenda to rebuild Pakistan, especially to mitigate the consequences this IMF loan and so on is going to have for the poorest people. Are the parties really up for the challenge, or is it the same old guys just hanging on?
I'm sorry, I'm going to disappoint you hugely this time. No, I do not see any any signs of the things that they ought to do, that they're doing those or thinking of those, right? They have learned, and as Mohsin said, the very fact that PDM has come together, worked together, the very fact that IK was brought in was because these parties had matured to a level where even when Mia Saab, he referred to Mia Saab going in a kala coat to the court, but he dropped it like a hot potato and apologized and then stood with Zardari, brought all the opposition together. When Qadri was sent with the dharna to bring down, after Memogate, bring down Zardari's government. And then Zardari in turn stood with Mia Saab in 2014 when IK and Qadri were brought in dharnas. Insofar as that, yes, they have learned. But the evolution of the parties themselves, I think that was your question, is not happening. Only yesterday, I saw, I don't know how true it is, but there is word that the party presidency is now going to move to Maryam Nawaz. So from
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's niece and former Prime Minister Sharif's daughter.
Yeah. And as you can see, so the two big parties, and not even just the two big parties, if you see Maulana Fazlur Rahman's party, if you see what's the other one, ANP, that's gone from father to son to son to son, or to wife to son. So these are all family fiefdoms, and that, I think, if we had time, we would, or maybe we can discuss it another time. But I think that's engendering the weaknesses in these parties. We saw just now, very recently, that one of the most highly respected senators, Mustafa Nawaz Khokhar, who thinks independently, is highly qualified, has a good record with his work on human rights. He was asked to resign from the Senate, from the People's Party. Yes. And similarly, we saw Dr. Miftah Ismail,
very well-respected finance minister of Pakistan.
Very well-respected, highly qualified, and moving in the right direction. He was asked to resign, and the old guard was back in. So these parties are really not evolved, and we saw some stuff on Twitter as well when again Maryam Nawaz was tweeting at the then finance minister Dr. Miftah Ismail to take back this tax or that tax. Now, what impression does that give? She's not an office holder. Yes, we know that she has the mantle, but that is problematic. So so there is no evolution there. There's no learning there. People's Party has become, confined to Sindh, and PMLN may face the same future if they're not going to let fresh blood come up, which is outside of their family. And even people who are outside of the family, they are also certain dynasties. And, the tickets are given out within their families. So these parties are really, and, on the economic front and so on and so forth, structural changes, I see no sign of that.
Mohsin Saab, I'll give you the last word. And one of the things I'm fascinated by is, ek haath pe Pakistan's neighborhood is in turmoil. There is a crisis in Afghanistan, problems in Central Asia, problems in Iran. But also one of the things I'm struck by with politicians like yourself is a younger generation of Pashtuns who are committed to education and to standing up to the Taliban, which was maybe not there 20 years ago. Many changes even in Punjab's social fabric. And of course, in Iran, hum dekh rahe hain ki ek youth cohort is asserting itself in a way many of us did not think was possible till recently. Looking at all this, आपको क्या लगता है कि is the rise of the Taliban and of fundamentalist forces inevitable, or will they get more pushback this time from civil society? So this time, I guess I'm asking, are you a little optimistic about the future, or a pessimist about it in the longer term?
Well, I am optimistic, but the problem here is that for how long can the general public resist? And, we have contained Taliban for the last 4 or 5 years due to our, public resistance. Otherwise, I think they would have taken over our region long ago. It is just because of the public opinion which is against them. And along with that, the public resistance. It is not, because it's just coming in the limelight right now. But I would say that during last 4 and 5 years, just in Waziristan, there might have been, I would say that the number of protests recorded just in Waziristan, north and south, I think I can very confidently say that no other city in the world can beat that. There has been a protest almost second hand. That was just against the militancy. And even at some time against the role of the military also, to in the name of oppression, killing and targeting the general public other than the militant. So public is resisting, and they have been resisting from a very long time, and it is spreading almost across the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And whenever I go, in such kind of rallies, my argument is that as long as we keep resisting, we can contain these people. But if the moment we stop it, they will come and they will take over. It's only the public pressure which is putting them on the back. But general public, they do not have that much of a capacity. They do not have that much of a an energy, they do not have that much of a stamina that how long they can resist. And the problem here is that now I believe that the people are very much clear, they are resisting. And one more thing I would like to add to what Gul said is that about the situation of the political parties in Pakistan. And I believe that as long as the existing parties, which are in Pakistan, or any alternative come up with a democratic organizational structure, because only through political organization and political institutions we can take, the power, which has been taken over by the military. An individual, whether it is a family, whether it is an individual person, it's never possible for them. It will never be possible for them to take such a big step and to take back, the power which has been taken over by the military. So it requires institutions, and unless the existing political parties, they work on it, or any alternative, who comes with such kind of program. Other than that, it won't be possible.
So thank you very much, Gul Bukhari, Mohsin Davar, for your time. I always try and add in my shows on India, Pakistan, that I wish we were having these conversations instead of on the internet in Delhi or in Islamabad. but one of the great blessings of the digital age has been that Pakistani sitting in London, another one in Islamabad, I think you are right now, Mohsin Saab, and myself in Delhi can have these conversations. I'm sure our viewers will have found it fantastically interesting, and look forward to joining both you and, of course, all our viewers in future episodes of Crosshairs. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening and a wonderful day to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.